Hey, Eric Sider here from Planting Pioneers, and I have a special guest, and we are in a special place, Geoff Lawton. Geoff, we're in New York City. We're in Brooklyn, New York. Why are you in New York City? Why am I in New York City? What are we doing here, man?
Why is anybody in New York City? Yeah. Well, I've been teaching in Florida, doing an interesting workshop for a corporate sustainable responsibility, kind of funky thing. And I'm on my way through to Jordan. Just so happened there's a stopover in New York, so I sort of extended it a couple of days. We could get together, hang out, and walk around and make some observations of this extremely famous place with its super activity and an unusual situation.
It's a bit mad out there, huh? I mean, you walk around, for me anyway, I lived here off and on for 10 years, mostly in the restaurant industry. My brother lives here now, so that's, and I got friends here, so it's a double opportunity to see you and Nadia and Latifa and my friends. But for me, I know when I'm walking around out there, I'm good for about an hour or so, and I kind of need to come inside and, refresh and
it's
kind of mellow out a bit, right?
It's kind of entertaining for me because I get a comparison. I just see the difference between the way we can live and the way we try and live as best as possible with a permaculture approach. And then I see the comparison of this place. Like I say, it's so famous, but it's a mess. I mean, it's beyond sustainable kind of thing, and yet there's little pockets of sustainability. There's hope. I'm actually looking out at something that looks like a food forest back of these houses, but it's so deja vu. You've seen it all before in the movies. Yeah. It's been so well media promoted, and yet when you see the nitty gritty, I'm back through New York a few times, and each time I'm kind of a passive observer of this kind of unusual event. It's just it's changed. It's changed, and it keeps changing. Right. But the icon's still there, and the energy, the challenge of trying to make it sustainable. It's out of scale. I mean, there's no question about that. But funny things happen, like people talking to themselves. We're talking.
Right. I don't know who's crazy and who's on a wireless earphone anymore, so
you can't tell. People who talk to themselves used to be the crazy ones, but now everybody's talking to themselves on these earpods, and it's like we've been laughing about that. It's like, what's going on? Like, it's quite okay to walk down the road and just have a personal conversation or an argument with somebody on a iPod, earpod.
It's rare to see someone who's not kind of cut off or involved in something, like someone's looking at their phone, they got music on, but it's very rare to see someone who's actually engaged and observing in their immediate surroundings.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I always find it a bit dangerous to be cut off from, especially in a city with this much activity going on. I mean, something simple as walking off the curb at the wrong time, or even worse, some random violence too.
And now a lot of the cars are electric.
Yeah. And
most of the bicycles are electric. It's kind of rare to see someone riding a bicycle now that's pedaling. They're all on a lithium battery. So there's like lithium electric going everywhere. And I don't know, people think they're doing the right thing, but it's still some kind of crazy pollution that's creating electricity that charges the battery, and then the battery is pretty short term. So it's all an illusion.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to get the right information, right? It seems like it's harder and harder to get the accurate, baseline information. There's always agendas on every side of the debate now.
And people are sort of numbing themselves. And you've got areas like this, which is Bushwick, yeah?
Yeah, we're in Bushwick.
And it's gentrifying. So you're getting gentrified apartments.
Yeah.
And it's sort of overlapping with the poorer minorities who are here, who are mostly not Americans originally, mostly immigrants. No. And they've all got their own cultural identities. So the place is kind of separated. We were in China yesterday.
Yeah, and then we walked across to Italy.
We walked into Italy one street away. And every Uber driver, because I'm catching Ubers anyway, and everybody I meet on Uber is from India or Pakistan or Guyana. 2 of them have been. Like, I have these lovely conversations with people about what they're doing here and where they come from. But everybody's chasing the dollar. and not noticing the consequences.
Yeah,
And the scenery's like, it's all graffiti and spare electric wires and strange sort of like trashy, rubbishy things. And then as it gentrifies, you get like the bespoke coffee shop comes in. We're both coffee freaks, so we love coffee. So you go and have a coffee, and it's all trendily made trashy. Like it's made to look like it's half worn out when it's brand new style. And everybody in there is a sort of hipster on a laptop.
Yeah.
And it's all silent. And everyone's in a second-hand looking chair or a sort of rough-walled. Looks like the place is trendily derelict.
Yeah.
Derelict, trendy inside.
Trashy, trendy.
Trashy, trendy.
Trashily
And
trendy.
everybody's on a really flash laptop.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking. Everyone's on their own. There's not many. And then
They're
you
all
go out.
interacting with people that aren't there, right?
Yeah,
they're interacting, but there was something out there in the.
And they're dressed and trendy.
Yeah.
And then you go outside and you're back in sort of Puerto Rico or something, and it's half.
Yeah, a lot of
There's dollar shops.
Latin America.
What's going on?
Selling stuff from China.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's good in some ways to realise where you don't want to end up. It's where you don't want the design to go. I mean, the cultural identity is kind of clinging by its claws in a sort of mess, yet it's still there. It's sort of, I don't know, but it gives me a great comparison anyway. It gives me a good idea. It's a great education for my daughter who's 9 to sort of remember and see maybe this is not the way you want to go.
That's going to be quite an imprint on her developing brain, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are obviously, what do we got, 22 million people, some more or less, in the greater New York City area, so maybe something, I mean, they're here, maybe they can't leave, or what, I mean, do you think there's a way to get some kind of ethical or spiritually enlightening, growing permaculture type lifestyle while you're still here?
Well, you do come across great organic markets. You know, Whole Foods is here like crazy, but they seem to be promoting, you know, international Whole Foods, food coming from everywhere. But there is like a real need for organic. Like organic's the big thing. Organic coffee is a big thing, and organic restaurants are a big thing. And when you go to the supermarkets, there's the most beautiful selection of drinks. You can get kombucha everything.
Right. Yeah.
Get more kombucha variations than. So there is that, like, there's an underlying commercial desire somewhere. It just needs to be revolutionized into localism, which it could do. I mean, it could do. And we'd have to sort of separate New York into clusters of village identities. So look, anything's possible.
Right.
Anything's possible. The hope is still there, and maybe, you know, it's probably got to be the internet somehow that like makes those connections and fires up the interest. Education's possible through the internet. Information exchange is more available than ever before. And it's sure, you know, the physical landscape can be adjusted. Somewhere the connectivity between all the beautiful cultures and all the beautiful people, where they can realise they don't have to be numbing and dumbing themselves down.
Right.
They can be lifting themselves up and loving life the way it is. It's kind of got to be some sort of revolution, I think. You can't wait for the Mr. Big to do it for you, because he's not going to get much out of it. We're all going to get it. We're all going to get the benefit ourselves. So it's got to be a pure revolution, I think. Peaceful, pure revolution.
Yeah. I mean, so for someone who, say, maybe they have a sunny window at the minimum and they're buying everything in the shops, I mean, do you think, what would your advice be as far as the healthiest way to go about doing that? I mean, would it be like trying to find farmers markets as you can, or just, you know?
Support that. Support organic, because at least someone's tried to grow something with the best ethics they've got. It's not necessarily good design. It could still be damaging the planet having something organic, because it can be just industrial agriculture that's been organified, and you know, and it's not in a good pattern, and it might be causing soil erosion, and it might be depleting the water table, and it might be enslaving immigrant workers, but it at least just supporting someone going a little bit the right way. I mean, really we need ecosystemic system production, but you know, if you can go to farmers markets, if you can get organic as possible, at least you're affecting what's being produced a bit. But if you grow a little bit of something, just a little bit, it doesn't matter, pot plant, something in your window, there's some connectivity to life.
Yeah.
Like it's beyond just what you get in food. Sure, you can't grow all your food on a tiny little balcony like this, but just something so you get a little bit of life connection to your supply line, a little bit of fresh enzymes, a little bit of that hope in like, even though it's microscopic hope.
So even something like this, right? A little bit of cilantro.
Yeah, a little bit of cilantro, eat a little bit of this, and at least you're getting some fresh enzymes. Just anything that makes that, even the microscopic connection is a connection that's worth starting the process. And then little by little, more by more, people start to talk and communicate and realise there's something to be gained. There's something that can bring the spirit alive. Because the spirit's still there, it just needs to be given an access point to sort of expand and explode into the abundance as possible.
And I mean, you get pulled up a bit on your how much area we actually need to feed ourselves, and people talk all the time about how there's no way you could grow a significant amount of food in a city like New York because there's no room, and we need, you know, now the tech trends, right? Vertical farms, indoor farms. I mean, what is that a solution in your mind, or do you think there's actually enough area in and around New York City to support New York City, or is it more of a broader redesign we need to do?
Well, I think the tech systems like the aquaponics, hydroponics, of course, vertical gardens, indoor gardens, the energy audit's terrible. I mean, it's a bandage which doesn't stick very well, actually. It's like a non-sticky bandage that falls off. So, you've got to go to soil creative systems. You can definitely do roof gardens. There's a lot of roofs out there. And there's still a lot of open space. I don't know the numbers on New York City. I mean, Manhattan's going to be a bit tight. If we could take Central Park, would be good.
Yeah,
take Central Park would be good.
Central Park Farms, that'd be great.
Yeah, Central Park Sustainable. Where was that? Central Sustainable Park Systems, Manhattan. I like it. I mean, and Brooklyn and the other outer boroughs, I think there's enough room, and we've definitely we could have quite a lot of sustainable boat transport around.
Floating gardens in the East River and the Hudson.
Yeah,
maybe?
we could ship things from borough to borough across this wonderful water system. The reason New York's here is it's the mouth of the systems of rivers,
right.
So it's an edge system. And it is possible. If we want to do it, we could do it. I think if we wanted to do it, we could do it. Of all places, what a turnaround!
Right.
Do New York, sustainable New York. I mean, if you could set up sustainable New York, I reckon you got the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, well, if you can do it in New York, you do it. It'd be always better than green in the desert. We did green in the desert because, like, one of the things was if you could do this, it gave people hope. And if you really know what New York's like. Listen to it out there. It's 24/7 sirens and things. If you could do New York, everyone would go, well, you can do anything.
Well, that is
London, even Beijing. It wouldn't really matter. One capital at a time. That'd be a great symbol. One capital at a time. Sustainable permaculture systems. Capital city health.
Well, that is the old saying. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? If you make it sustainable here, you can make it anywhere. That would be a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, outside of New York, there's a lot of people, a lot of interest in permaculture, a lot of people doing your online course, and one of the first things they realize, I know for myself, it's the first thing I realized, is that after I did my PDC, I know how to do anything. I don't really know about gardening, plants, farm work. So if you had your best advice, I guess, for how people can go about maybe upskilling and some things that they have no history of for their upbringing or culture, maybe?
Well, practical courses. We have a permaculture in action course, but more people need to do those practical courses, and those courses need to be held somewhere where you can practice. So if you're just doing food production, community gardens are a good place. And if people set up community permaculture groups it's a great thing because permaculture is way beyond gardening. So you learn about, reducing your energy consumption, reducing your house energies, making everything more efficient, reducing your transport requirements, understanding your waste systems, as well as the micro gardens to broader gardens, broader farms, larger systems, forestry, aquaculture, rangeland, those things. So it's a whole connectivity, even local currencies, local exchange systems, that's all part of permaculture. But obviously people see it as gardening and farming, but it's very much about communication with your own local community. So if you set up local community groups where there is some level of exchange of ideas and information, then you can get involved with practical workshops at a small appropriate level. So we're assembling right now a permaculture community group startup kit for local government areas. We're focused our theme on local government areas. There's 19,000 local government areas in America. And each one has local politicians that can be influenced by local community groups that demonstrate what can be done. There's 547 in Australia. We're a pretty big country, but we've obviously got larger areas with less population.
Yeah, your population could almost fit in New York City's.
Yeah, it's almost the same as out in New York, about 23 million people in this 7.5 million square kilometres.
That's so we are mad statistic in itself, right?
Yeah. It's really 5 cities, and the largest one's got 3 million. So by far, that's the largest. Sydney and Melbourne, 2 to 3 million, I think. 2 to 3 million. That's right. So we have a lot of open space, but when you're talking about setting things up so that people can share practical experiences. At a local level, it can be free and very, very relevant to where you are. So now we have the internet. This can be done very well. So I have a permaculture group I set up 25 years ago. At its 25th anniversary this year, June 2019, it was 25 years old. And it still has over 100 people meeting every month. And lots of experienced people now. But we all learnt together applying permaculture design into small gardens and small acreage and medium-sized acreage in that zone. And it's great to share. I mean, it's just so relevant. And we have our own recipe books. So we have recipe books that are from a place and a date. Like New York should have 12 recipe books, one for each month of the year. And all the ingredients should be available at that time of year. Or they're naturally preserved or fermented and available as appropriate ingredients to recipes. Then we know everything we're eating is the best possible nutrient locally available. So it's high nutrition when it's absolutely fresh and absolutely local. And that should be our priority of food. I mean, imagine New York if you didn't import or export anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what
I don't think New York does export any food, does it?
Maybe apples and maple syrup.
Apples from New York State.
Yeah.
It's
a big thing. I mean, that's something coming from the restaurant industry. I always kind of felt like the role of the restaurant industry to bring kind of a more of a seasonal eating. We're very entitled about what we want to eat. We want our strawberries and our tomatoes in the winter, no matter what, even if it's a sad looking tomato. Somehow we're just so accustomed to having it when we shouldn't. But
it could be dried. It could be preserved. I mean, these areas in behind the Brooklyn terraces, the whole thing could be food forests. I mean, you could just about take down the fences and have the whole thing shaded out in summer and make it more energy efficient with the shade and reduce the heat load in the area. And then in winter it'd be deciduous and maybe glass houses. You could link glass houses through and help pump the heat through. I mean, there's lots of appropriate ways we could do it. It'd be really funky, actually. I'd like to get one of these blocks.
Yeah.
And someone fund us with one of these blocks, be a bit of real estate.
Somebody out there, someone's got money.
Just one of these blocks where we got the whole interior to do a design on.
What's there, 22 billionaires in the world? One of them probably got a spare few million out there for something useful.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a good project. It'd help a lot of people. Because there's so much infrastructure that's already in position. A lot of it is actually aging, and what's happening is it's being gentrified into trendiness.
Yeah.
Not necessarily any more efficient.
No.
It's probably even losing efficiency in its gentrification. Right? It could be permification. Which could be the ultimate gentrification, right. Gentry for permification, and then well, we could roll this right out. It'd definitely go up in price. It'd definitely be trendy. Could put this online, be a awesome Facebook page.
That would be. Now we're talking about people getting skills and what like. It's definitely, you think it's a business out there for people that have land, have systems. I mean, if they can open up their sites for people to come and learn. There's definitely, people want to learn it, but there's not necessarily a class for basic farm skills or...
Well, look, people are always asking how you make money out of permaculture. And the job we just did in Florida was in a hat factory that had a spare acre of commercial land next door and wants to put it into a food forest instead of another factory. Yeah. They're making enough money out of their 1 acre site with a factory on it. So next door, the acre spare, they're putting it into a food forest, and we ran a workshop so that people could see how I would design it over 2 days. Right. And it was sold out. And then we can go in say March, in the springtime, and do how we would implement it. And we could keep doing that till it's established. It's got a building they're going to put in there, so it's going to be a nice place to run workshops for people, bit of information area, a place to have social events. And it will only make the hat factory more popular. So people will then be engaged in it. But what happens on a lot of sites where you have a demonstration site being established, people can come and work. But a good income, we've found, is to have Airbnb with it. Because a lot of people don't just want to come and do a little bit of work. Some people want to just come and see what it's like to live in an appropriate building, a building that heats itself and cools itself, say a straw bale building, a mud brick building, a hempcrete building or some of these, and live on solar electricity with a battery bank, let's say, off the grid. What it's like to use a compost toilet, a reed bed grey water, to have solar hot water, to have natural food growing all around you, to relax in amongst it and engage with it as something you purchase. Not just education, but just go and dip your toe in the water and say, what would it like to live in somewhere where there is all the foods you want to eat around you, in a garden and a food forest and a few small animals like chickens and ducks. Yeah. And they haven't got anywhere they can go and experience it. They want that new lifestyle. Well, they want that link to what their ancestors had with the species and technology we have today. I mean, our ancestors didn't have the internet, did they? I mean, they didn't have solar electricity. They didn't even have appropriate compost toilets and reed beds. We've got all those things. We've got solar hot water. We've got appropriate cook stoves. We've got food species that have come from all over the world, and they keep increasing. The diversity of food that we're eating keeps increasing. So like the super foods you can produce in the garden, the super, you can't purchase it. It's so fresh, so diverse. They want to wow, what do you like to do that for 2 weeks or 2 days? Right. And that as part of a practical education centre means that you're sort of guaranteed to be economically sustainable while you help the world at large become more sustainable. So if you're part of that movement, that's potentially a growing movement that can help save the world while not going broke. Yeah.
All right. So we were talking about ways to get your skills up, or your kind of ideal volunteer candidate, maybe, or what their mindset or expectations should be to come, say, to your site or a similar site, and be an asset and not kind of be a liability where you're going to constantly be stopping work or
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to come with a very open mind, and they definitely want to learn. They want to learn in every way they can. They want to find the learning in the work and not expect it's all just going to arrive on a plate, because it doesn't. It's from the experience of working that you can the lessons revealed to you. So you don't slow the work down by asking lots of questions. You reflect on the work that you're doing, and then maybe at the end of the day, you then think back and what did I learn? What did I just experience? And where was the lessons in there? And if you're in doubt, then ask. But it's really about I'll be of service.
Yeah.
And in being of service, you learn, and you have to take responsibility. Taking responsibility allows you to see the lessons that are kind of up until then hidden. And if you're good, you get asked to stay.
Yeah.
It's the same as an aid worker. If you go out and offer to volunteer in aid, then and you learn a little bit of the local language, you offer to pay for your accommodation and food and work as hard as you can to be someone that's valuable to local people, not a burden, but actually an asset. They'll ask you to stay. They'll offer to accommodate you. They'll offer to feed you, and they'll beg you to stay. In the end, you know you've done the right thing. You're someone that they see as value. So that's the idea. You get to a stage where you can go out and help other people. You can be of service to people in need. That's when you know you've got it right. And in the end, you'll be continuously offered work as someone that can come and help others get themselves started. And there's plenty of inquiry out there.
How important is it to not impose or demand your idea of how someone should live on another culture? I mean, if you actually want to have an effect, right? Because they might be doing plenty of things you don't agree with personally, but it's important to know that you're a guest in their world, kind of thing, right? Yeah,
you've got to have cultural sensitivity. It has to be very, very it has to be very sensitive. So you have to be very careful. You have to do a lot of observation, have a lot of passive body language, passive approach, almost neutral approach. Neutral is better than assumption. Right? So if you're neutral, you can't be too far wrong.
Yeah.
And then after some experience and a bit of time, you start to realize maybe how you can be more positive. So cultural sensitivity in aid is one of the most difficult things and one of the most important things. And then over time and example, right, you can set things up so that people want to follow what you're doing. And if they don't, you've got it wrong. Sometimes you go too quickly or push too hard, too fast. So after a while, it has to become very, very obvious that what we're doing is easier, better, and beneficial, highly beneficial, especially when it comes to health. But also, it becomes obvious that you're benefiting the environment, so it can go on indefinitely. There's no end game.
Right.
There's no ceiling to this. It just keeps getting better.
Yeah, and have fun doing it a bit, right? If you're not, the best demonstration that people want to follow what you're doing is that you're enjoying yourself. Yeah,
when you have hope, it's easier to have fun.
Yeah.
Right. So when things are very hopeful and you're giving people a lot of hope, they're more likely to say, "Hey, this is something I enjoy.
Yeah.
I like doing this. It's great."
All right, Geoff. I know you got to catch a plane tonight. You're off to Jordan, so we won't take up much more of your time. But what are you going to be doing in Jordan?
Well, this is the 10th, going towards the 11th year on the new project, and it's a completely new world. We're totally overbooked on Permaculture Design Certificate Course, 2-week course, and then we have 4 weeks of practical application, exactly what we were just talking about, on site on the project. So it's a 6 weeks of work in an area that I'm used to working in, but it's still going to be hard work, and I'm really excited because, as with most things permaculture, every year things get a little bit better and exponentially get better. Like, we can't keep up with the inquiry of people coming towards us wanting to know more about the system everywhere, and that's true in Jordan. And now we can't keep up with the inquiry of people wanting to come to the project and help the project go a bit further because they can see the success of it. So it's jumped a lot. Well, it's jumped further in the last 12 months than any other 12 months in its 10, 11 years of this new project. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Whole new set of people to get permanently infected with permaculture and send out into the world to keep changing things in the right direction.
All right. Well, we better get him and to the airport. And if you want the best permaculture experience in your life, get to Jordan, take the class, sign up for the practical experience. It'll be life-changing for sure.
All right.
Thanks so much, mate.
Cool. No problem. Next time in New York, we'll be here.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. Hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.